It is not a super well-known fact, but less than 100 years ago, in 1926, in Mexico, there was a great persecution of those who were followers of Jesus, of the Catholic Church. There was a president, his name was Plutarco Elias Calles, and he wanted to just have control over the Christians. And so he tried to kind of make his own kind of church, the Mexican Catholic Church. And so that church would be underneath him and not the Pope. And then he began to enact a lot of laws to limit the worship of Christians, of Catholics, right? He wanted to limit how many priests could exist or be ordained. And he started confiscating land and this kind of stuff. And I talk sometimes to people about this, and they're surprised that they happen in Mexico, right? People think, well, isn't Mexico a very Catholic country? And it is. And perhaps precisely because of that, this president was not having it. And so he started persecuting Christians and Catholics. And so what ensued was kind of like some sort of civil war for the next 3 years in 1926. And this war is usually called the Cristero War. Right? Those who were fighting on behalf of Christ kind of took this name of being Cristeros, right? Kind of like Christian warriors. And they would have this phrase they would use to kind of encourage each other to fight for the Lord. And they would say, "Viva Cristo Rey." And everybody would reply, "Viva," which kind of roughly translates to "Long live Christ the King, and may he live long," kind of thing. Just as an aside, if you're interested more in this history, there's a great movie called For Greater Glory. Beautiful movie. They're not paying me, I promise, but it's a good movie. So encourage you to watch it. Anyway, as the Cristero War began to unfold, and priests began to be killed. Churches began to be burned with people in them. Sometimes a lot of land confiscated. More and more people wanting to join the Cristero cause for the sake of defending just the freedom of worshiping and also the atrocities that were being done, right? Well, among the people wanting to fight for the Lord was this young man, and actually say a young boy. He was 13 years old, and his name was Jose Sanchez del Rio, and he had this nickname, Joselito, like little Joseph, Joselito. And so, just stop here for a second and just think about this. This young boy, he's 13 years old. I don't know if we have any 13-year-olds here or close to that age. I'm sure we do, right? A 13-year-old really seeing this awful thing happening in his country and seeing that his Lord, his love, Jesus, was being persecuted. And he wanted to do something about it. He wanted to join that Cristero cause. And so he asked his mom, like, I want to be a Cristero. Can I be one? And because his older brother had joined. And of course his mom was like, no, I don't think so. And but then he began to insist. And he had this beautiful thing he would tell his mom. He would say, "Mom, it has never been so easy to earn heaven as it is now. And I don't want to miss the chance. Mom, it has never been so easy to earn heaven as it is now. And I don't want to miss the chance." Joselito knew. He knew that the Lord was his king, and he knew that his ultimate destiny was heaven, and he didn't care, right, if serving the Lord in this Cristero cause would mean his life. After insisting for about some time, his mom finally gave in and said, "Okay, you can. If they allow you to join, I'll allow you to join." And so he reached out to the Cristeros, and they didn't allow him to join as a soldier because they thought that he was indeed too young. But they said, "Okay, if you really want to serve, you can come to camp and help kind of as a messenger boy and help with things in the camp." And so he did. He joined. Now, a couple years later, after a battle, he actually was indeed captured. And when he was captured, you can already tell, right? Joselito had this fire within him, right? As he was captured, but he was not intimidated by by those who had captured him. And so he would proclaim often, "Long live Christ the King," which really annoyed those who were imprisoning him. And so they began to mock him about his faith and actually began to ask him that he needs to recant his faith. He needs to deny Christ as his king, or else they would kill him. And yet, all the more, Joselito would say, "Long live Christ the King." And so eventually he said, "Okay, we've had enough. We're going to kill you." And so as a way of killing him, they actually kind of wanted him to suffer a little bit. So they first kind of cut the sole of his feet and then made him walk for like a little bit until the place where they were going to kill him and where his tomb was going to be. And there, after he walked that distance, they stabbed him multiple times, and then ultimately they shot him for him to die, right? Now, before he actually died, one of the soldiers, kind of trying to mock him even more, said something like, "Do you have any message for your parents?" And just kind of laughing at him. And yet, even at that moment, Joselito replied with great love, "Long live Christ the King, and that we will see each other in heaven." And he died lovingly for his king. Today we celebrate the solemnity of Jesus Christ, King of the universe. And I share this story with you about young Joselito, Saint Joselito, because he's been proclaimed a saint, because I think he gives us such a beautiful testimony, a beautiful example of what it means to have Christ as our King. It means to lay down our lives for him. It's saying, "I will serve even unto death." Now, it is true that Joselito had a very particular dire circumstance in which he lived, and perhaps it's different from ours, but still, right? We're called to follow the Lord in this way, and it's a daily battle. It's a daily battle of letting him be the king of our lives. I think we have this constant temptation of wanting to be kings and queens of our lives, wanting to reign over our life, or perhaps let something else reign, right? Maybe it's an addiction, or money, or the way I want to spend my time, political positions, my morality. I want to decide my own morality, the way I live my own sexuality, whatever it is, right? We have this temptation of saying, "I want to be king or queen of my own life." And yet the Lord invites us and asks us to let him be the king of our lives, to rule over our hearts and our lives and our minds and our souls. A particular thing kind of related to letting the Lord reign that I think we really love to hold on to is control, right? We want to control so many things of our lives, right? I see it, right? I want to control how the parish grows. I want to control how the ministries unfold. I want to control how the capital campaign does. I want to control my family relationships, my health, etc. The list keeps going. Maybe you want to control exactly how your finances happen, the promotions at your work, right? We want to control how our children develop, how they behave, whatever. We want to control, right? It's not bad to have goals and strive for things. That's totally fine. But there's so many things that are not in our control that we want to control, right? And we do not allow the Lord to reign because we want to have the control. I feel that every day the Lord, especially in my morning prayer, asks me, "Hey, Enrique, are you going to let me be king today? Or are you going to be the king today? Are you going to try to be king today, or will you allow me to reign?" And it's a battle. It's a battle. Sometimes I do not want to let the Lord be king of my day. I want to control. I want the day to go how I want it to go. And yet, then maybe later in the day, the Lord invites me. "So are you going to let me now? Will you trust that I am in control? Will you let me be king?" And I noticed that as I try to be king of my own life, I experience much greater anxiety, fear, stress, and burden. But it is when I allow the Lord to reign, it is when we allow the Lord to reign, let him be in control, when we trust him, when we surrender to him, then we can experience peace, joy, and ultimately freedom. It is in allowing Christ to be king of our life that we experience true freedom. And this is not only in respect to this aspect of control, but in every aspect of our lives. I think I'm a witness to that, experiencing that freedom as I allow Him more and more to reign. And I think also the testimony of Saint Joselito bears witness to this. He was living in dire circumstances, and yet, even as he was being tortured, he was able to have this inner freedom because he was allowing Christ to reign in his life, and he was able to surrender to the circumstances in which he was living. And thus, to the very end, even in great suffering, he was able to proclaim, Viva Cristo Rey, long live Christ the King.